I will argue that this is probably the system that gets sold the least, because there's a little bit of a fundamental understanding that needs to happen as far as what glycation is, right? My grandfather's been fighting that battle since 2006. He published the first industry paper on glycation in Skin Inc. magazine in 2006. It's a two-part. It was such a big article that they had to break it down into two. But he really talked about exactly what glycation was and the impact that it has on the body. The glycation that we get comes primarily through dietary intake, right? When you eat things that are baked or caramelized or fried or broiled, right? If there's sugars and proteins together, it creates these glycation products, advanced glycation end units. And this is like bread and cookies and cakes and steak and all the fun things that you like to eat. Basically, if you like it and you get enjoyment from eating it and it tastes good, it's bad for you. It's got glycation in it, right? So the idea is that you can minimize some of these things, obviously, but when through the cooking process, it creates these A.G.E.s, very aptly named, advanced glycation end units, A.G.E.s. And when we consume them, they bind to different cells and receptors of the cells inside the body, and they foster the aging process. They release cytokines all throughout the bloodstream. There's a transcription factor called NF-kappa B. Write that down if you've never heard it. I've been talking about now for almost 20 years, ever since that article came out. NF-KB, nuclear factor kappa B. It's a transcription factor that we need in the body for things like new cell growth, immune function, but it gets overactivated. The overactivation of this transcription factor begins to release cytokines into the bloodstream that are now linked to every single aging disease that we know of. Diabetes, atherosclerosis, renal disease, heart failure, all linked specifically to glycation, right? And we're not talking about diabetes, it's very different, all right? There's similarities there, there's links there, but glycation is a non-enzymatic cross-linking of these things together. Now, this is happening outside the body through a process called the Maillard reaction. Ironically, the Maillard reaction is, well, let me take a step back there. When we look at the foods that have the highest amount of glycation, duck skin's the top of the list, right? People are asking me about glycation and what's the most glycated, it's duck skin. So we refer to it as the Maillard reaction. Terrible, terrible, terrible delivery. Anyway, so when we have high amounts of these advanced glycation end products, again, it comes from a lot of the frying of these different foods. So again, it's the glycation products that come from the Maillard reaction and then also the Fenton reaction, which happens inside the body. A lot of heavy metals inside the body will create the Fenton reaction. Smokers are creating this process through the Fenton reaction as well. And it creates cross-linking of the materials, but then it also creates cross-linking inside the body. And obviously, collagen being the #1 protein found in the dermal tissue, that's the one that gets cross-linked the most. But any proteins, even some of the polysaccharides, are susceptible to cross-linking. And when that happens, it creates this stiffness, this brittleness that we actually see, right? And while we can identify glycation in certain areas of the face and body, it has a lot to do with the fact that we have metabolites, right? Waste products that can't be taken away. So it's kind of this vicious cycle of creating this cross-linking, lack of blood flow, lack of oxygen delivery, and ironically glucose for cell respiration, and the lack of removal of these waste products, these metabolites. And it's this kind of ongoing process. Now, what can we do? Well, number one, avoid the things that you know are heavily glycated, all the stuff that we know to avoid anyway, but we can't help it. I had 2 cookies last night before I went to bed, full disclosure. I hadn't had a cookie in like 6 days. I'm like, I gotta be slender up here on stage. If you avoid those things, you're one step ahead of the game. If you can take a supplement like carnosine, right? Carnosine is one of the most popular anti-glycation ingredients that we have in the industry. It's in a lot of our skincare formulations, but it's also being able to be taken as a supplement, okay? Now, we have a series of ingredients here that are helping with that. A number of years ago, there's a company called Lucas Meyer that introduced these into the marketplace, and they are extremely effective. The target audience, again, is those that you see that have high signs of aging, right? We understand that their lifestyle, they're engaging in a lot of these behaviors, whether it's smoking or overconsumption of glycated foods. We know that it's ultimately going to have an impact. These are the kind of things that you want to be recommending to them. And again, we're not nutritionists, but we can take a look into someone's lifestyle and say, this might be appropriate for you. We sell the most of these products right around Thanksgiving, right? Turkey skin is pretty close on the list underneath duck skin. And again, I know duck skin's not a staple of everyone's diet here, but it's something to consider.